New text messages reveal what happened in the hours after Florida teen Anna Kepner was found dead on board a Carnival cruise ship and how her family tried to handle it.
Newly released court documents include texts between Anna's stepmom and her ex-husband. Very little about Anna was mentioned. Instead, the focus was on their son, Anna's 16-year-old stepbrother, and how to protect him. Jonathan Siri has the latest from Atlanta. Hi, Jonathan.
Yeah, very strange story. Good morning, Rich and Molly. The court has released documents showing text exchanges between relatives in the days immediately following the death of 18-year-old Anna Kepner. In particular, they expressed concern about preventing public disclosure of the name of the victim's 16-year-old stepbrother. In one text exchange, Thomas Hudson, the ex-husband of Anna's stepmother, writes, "Okay, I know everything is supposed to be hush-hush for now, but I've seen that it is still getting out with posts and comments between Facebook, TikTok, and stuff. I just want to make sure until things are certain that he doesn't get any unnecessary comments towards him." Anna's stepmother, Chantel Kepner, writes, "Nobody knows anything about him. He is a minor and has been kept completely out of it. We have not said anything to anybody, and we are going to try our best to keep it completely out." As for the still unnamed 16-year-old, Chantel Kepner writes, "I was able to talk to him last night for under 2 minutes briefly. He just keeps repeating over and over again, he can't remember anything." And Rich and Molly, court documents suggest that the 16-year-old is under investigation. However, no charges have been filed.
It does not strike me as odd. I think this is pretty, routine communication between two parents whose child is really been implicated in this. And although the FBI has not come out and said that this 16-year-old is a suspect, it's clear from the filings in family court that he is definitely someone the family knows law enforcement is looking at. So what are two parents to do? Neither one of them are the parents of Anna Kepner. And so, of course, as sad and as tragic as this is to them, especially the father who has no connection to Anna Kepner, of course his focus is going to be on his son and what's best for his son. I know that there's been some talk about these texts being callous and the fact that they don't recognize Anna, but I think, that's sort of looking for something to be critical about. I'm sure that these people feel awful about the death of Anna, but at the same time, they're trying to protect their son. So I think that these texts are standard in the sense that what do we do here? This is a child who clearly has emotional issues. He was put in a facility right after this happened. I'm not so sure I believe these claims that I don't remember what happened. I don't remember what happened. We're going to see how that plays out, but that's definitely been the narrative. But as we've seen, there's been no charges here.
Welcome back, guys. This is another intense case that really makes you stop and think. Honestly, both of these stories are shocking in their own ways. Let's start with the Anna Kepner cruise ship case. This one has really captured a lot of attention because of the new details that have came out. So, apparently, some newly released text messages between Anna's stepmother and her ex-husband have surfaced. And the messages show that their main concern was protecting their 16-year-old son, who is Anna's stepbrother, from public exposure. That's interesting because it shows that their focus was really on their kid, trying to shield him. At first, some people might think it's unusual, but when you really think about it, it makes sense. The kid is involved in this case, so parents naturally want to protect him. Now, Anna tragically died on a Carnival cruise ship. Investigators said she was found under a bed and that her cause of death was asphyxia. That's so heartbreaking. So she was just a young girl, and it's hard to imagine what happened that led to this situation. The details are disturbing, but it's important to follow the facts and try to understand the bigger picture. The 16-year-old stepbrother is under investigation, but here's the thing, no charge have been filed. This might be due to what they call an intent problem, meaning investigators are not sure if he intended to cause harm. That's also the factor that he claims he didn't remember what happened. That's a complex situation. and it makes the legal side very tricky. How do you assign responsibility if memory and intent are unclear? That's probably why it's being handled so carefully. Criminal defense attorney Donna Rutuno weighed in and explained that the parents' focus on their son is really routine communication. It's not strange that they were talking to each other about protecting him because he is implicated in this case. That perspective is important because it helps people understand that the parents' concern doesn't automatically mean something suspicious on their part. It's just a normal parental reaction in a very unusual and serious situation. Switching gears, the video also discusses the Luigi Gagnon case. This one is a bit different but also very serious. Luigi Magino is charged with the premeditated killing of Brian Thompson, who was the CEO of United Healthcare. That's a high profile case because of the victim's position and the nature of the crime. Magino's lawyers are trying to prevent the death penalty from being imposed in the federal case. That's a common strategy in cases where a client is facing potential accusation. Defense lawyers often file motions to argue that the death penalty shouldn't apply, but it's important to note that the final decision is up to a jury. Rutino connected that this motion will likely not succeed because ultimately a jury decides if the death penalty is appropriate in eligible cases. That makes sense when you think about the legal system. It's designed to give the jury that responsibility in the most serious cases. So, looking at both cases together, there's a lot to unpack. In Anna's case, we are seeing a very professional, family-centered tragedy that involves young people, parents, and very difficult circumstances. In Luigi Maginon's case, it's more about a calculated, premeditated crime with legal strategies around the death penalty. Both are extreme, but for very different reasons. One thing that stands out to me in Anna's case is how complicated it is when a minor is involved in a criminal investigation. There are so many legal and ethical factors. The investigators have to balance protecting the family, understanding intent, and considering the mental state of a teenager. And at the same time, they have to look at the severity of the crime and the need for accountability. It's a delicate balance. The text messages really highlight the human side of this story. When you read that the parents were worried about their son, it reminds you that even in tragic situations, family dynamics play a big role. Parents want to protect their children even when things have gone terribly wrong. That's not to excuse anything, but it's important to see the full picture and not just focus on the crime itself. And the details about Anna's death, found under a bed and caused by asphyxia, are chilling. It makes you realize how fragile life can be and how quickly a situation can turn tragic. The fact that the stepbrother has claimed memory issues adds another layer of complexity. It's really hard to judge what happened without all the facts, and the legal system has to take that into account. Looking at Luigi Maginon's case, it's clear that premeditated crimes are treated very differently. The planning, intent, and accusation of the crime are key factors in the legal proceedings. Defense lawyers will try to argue any factor that could reduce their client's sentence. But when it comes to fatal cases with potential death penalties, it's ultimately the jury that decides. That's the reality of the system, It's designed to weigh the facts and make the most serious decisions in the hands of peers rather than just the judge or lawyers. Both cases really show the range of criminal investigations. On one hand, you have a tragic family situation involving a minor, and on the other, you have a deliberate, premeditated killing in a corporate context. It's a reminder that crime can take many forms and the legal system has to adapt to each scenario. One key takeaway from Anna's case is that parental concern is natural and should be understood in context. People often misinterpret actions without knowing the full story. And in Luigi Maginon's case, it's a reminder that the death penalty process is very structured and deliberate. Both show different sides of the law and human behavior under extreme circumstances. It's also interesting to see how legal experts like Donna Ruturo provide perspective. They help the public understand why certain actions by families or defendants are not automatically suspicious. That kind of insight is important because it prevents jumping to conclusions based on limited information. In the end, what these stories have in common is that they involve serious real life consequences. They are both extreme situations with deep legal and emotional implication. Watching these cases unfold reminds us of the importance of justice, careful investigation, and understanding context before making judgments. These stories are difficult, emotional, and sometimes shocking, but they also provide insight into how the law works in very different scenarios, from protecting minors in tragic circumstances to handling premeditated murder cases at the federal level. Both require attention to detail, fairness, and the balance between accountability and compassion. This is definitely a lot to think about. It's intense, it's emotional, and it really makes you reflect on how complex the justice system is. Watching these cases, you get a sense of both the human and legal sides of these events and how everything is interconnected: family, law, society, and consequences. Thanks for watching my video. I will see you in the next video.